Wouldn't it be great if you could learn how to buy and sell raw land and have it cash flow and you don't have to deal with the traditional headaches of real estate, tenants, toilets, and termites? This episode is going to walk you through step by step how I've done this over 6,000 times.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owners Association, where real estate investors have found success since 1968. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group. This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com. Get ready for the Midwest Real Estate Investor Conference in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Join hundreds of real estate investors for networking, learning, and growth. Be sure to mark your calendars for April 24th and 25th of 2025. Hello and welcome to episode 475. Real estate investing often conjures images of rental properties, tenants, and intense management responsibilities. But what if there was a simpler way to build wealth and create passive income? My guest today, Mark Podolsky, the Land Geek, has spent over 20 years mastering the art of buying and selling raw land, completing more than 6,000 transactions. He's also the author of Dirt Rich, the ultimate guide to buying passive income, where he shares how raw land can create financial freedom through systems and automation. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Brian Hamrick, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
For our listeners who are you and what are you all about?
If we rewind the tape 25 years ago, I was a miserable, micromanaged, 45-minute commute to work and back investment banker, specializing in mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups. And Brian, it got so bad for me, I didn't get the Sunday blues, anticipating Monday coming around. I'd get the Friday blues, anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday. So my firm hires this guy, and he's telling me there's a side hustle. He's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar. He's flipping them online, and he's making 300% on his money. And Brian, I'm looking at companies all day long, and a great company, has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Average company's 10%. And I'm looking at companies all day long, less than 10%. So I'm from Missouri. I'm from the Show Me State. I don't believe it. So I've got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I go to New Mexico. I do exactly what he tells me to do. I buy 10 half-acre parcels at an average price of $300 each. I flip them online, and they all sell for an average price of $1,200 each. It worked. So I took all that money, went to another auction in Arizona, which is where I live, and I'm buying up lots and acres for nothing. I sold all that land, and I made over $90,000 cash. So I go to my wife, and she's pregnant. I said, honey, I'm going to quit my job and become a full-time land investor. And she said, absolutely not. So I said, okay. So it took 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit, and I've been doing it full-time ever since.
Eventually, your wife obviously said, sure, go ahead, Mark, and quit your job, huh?
Yeah, because we had a plan. Yeah, and she could see, there was really very little downside and tremendous upside.
When you talk about buying raw land and what you were doing in the beginning there, walk us through it. What does that look like? Like when you did your first deal, what did you actually do?
Let's use you as a case study. So I'll kind of walk you through it step by step. So Brian, where do you live?
I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
You're in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you own 5 acres of raw land in Colorado, and you owe $200 in back taxes. So you're advertising 2 important things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to the raw land. You're in Michigan, properties in Colorado. And number 2, you're financially distressed in some weird way. Because when we don't pay for things like our property taxes, we don't value them in the same way. And as a result, the county treasurer keeps sending you notices saying, Brian, if you don't pay your taxes, you're going to lose that property to a tax deed or a tax lien investor. So all I'm going to do is look at the comparable sales on your 5-acre parcel for the last 12 to 18 months. I'm going to take the lowest comparable sale. Let's say it's $10,000 for easy math. I'm going to divide by 4. And that's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'm going to send you an actual offer of $2,500. Now, you accept it. Why? Because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing. In reality, 3 to 5% of people are going to accept my quote unquote top dollar deal. But now that you've accepted it, I have to go through due diligence or in-depth research. I have to confirm you still own the property. I have to make sure back taxes are only $200. I have to make sure there's been no breaks in the chain of title, no liens or encumbrances. And so I outsource this to my team in Jamaica. They're connected to an American title company. It costs about $11. Now, if it was investing $5,000 or more, I would just close traditionally through a title company. But this is only $2,500. I'll take a little bit of title risk. We'll assume everything checks out. I send you a check for $2,300. I send the treasurer a check for $200. I own it free and clear. Now, Brian, I'm going to sell it 30 days or less. I'm going to make a cash flow like a rental home. So I have a built-in best buyer. Do you know who it is?
Probably be the person next door.
You're right. The neighbors. So I'm going to send out neighbor offers, or neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Protect your privacy. Protect your views. Know your neighbor. Oftentimes the neighbors will buy it. Now, if they pass, I'll go to my buyers list. The buyers list passes, I'll go to a little website you may have heard of. It's called Meta or Facebook. Buy sell groups, the marketplace. And then I'll go to the lands. Landmodo.com, land.com, landandfarm.com, landsofamerica.com, landcentury.com, landflip.com, landhub.com. These are platforms where people buy and sell raw land. But the secret is in the pricing. So all I'm going to ask for is a $2,500 down payment. And then I'll make it a car payment. Let's say $249 a month at 9% interest for the next 84 months. So I get this one-time sale. I'm getting $249 a month at 9% interest for the next 84 months. Brian, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act, all this onerous real estate legislation. So then it's a simple game. Can we create enough land notes where our passive income exceeds our fixed expenses? And now we're working because we want to, not because we have to.
How often does that actually work for you? I heard you say like 2 to 4% of the time, someone might take you up on your offer of $2,500 for the land. But then how often are you able to sell it to the person next door or the neighbors?
So the way the numbers break down is if I make 100 offers, 3 to 5 will accept. Out of those 3 to 5, I will personally buy 1%. So for every 100 offers, I'll get one deal.
So you're really not taking possession.
No, I am buying it. It is getting deeded in my company's name. Yeah. But then I'll flip it and I'll sell it on a land contract and owner finance it and make it cash flow.
The type of land you're looking for, like what's your target there? Would you buy land with a property that's already on it? Or are you just looking for raw land? And what does that raw land need to look like? Does it need to be cleared or graded? Could it be on the hillside? I mean, what's your niche there?
My niche is, can I buy it 25, 30 cents on the dollar? Now, typically for me to get that deal, I have to be about 2 to 3 hours from the nearest city. So this is raw, vacant, rural land. So I have people that say, oh, I live in San Francisco. Can I buy infill lots using your model? Like, not really. Because if I live in San Francisco, I have $1 million infill lot. I'm not selling it to you 25, 30 cents a dollar. I'll go to the biggest, baddest land broker in town. So I want to find people that are distressed. They no longer want the property. They're tired of paying their property taxes. The dream they had of going out and doing something on that land is gone. And now we're going to pay them and we'll find someone else that could be more productive with that land.
When you've done this and you've been doing this for 25 years now, like what are some of the surprises you've had with the land that you've bought?
I got a lot of stories. There are all types of land and all types of characters that could be, in that area. But a story that kind of comes to mind is when I messed up my due diligence and I bought land in New Mexico on the side of a mountain. So I thought I was buying 40 acres, but 25 of them were actually on the mountain and 15 were actually accessible. So, and I paid $2,500 for it. So I thought, well, if I can just get my money out, that would be good. So I put it up on eBay at $1, no reserve bid for 10 days. The first day it got bid up to $2,500. By the 10th day, it was $32,500. I'm really upset, nervous. Like, did I misrepresent this property? Can they see the map? Like, it's on the side of a mountain. And so as soon as the auction's over, I called the winner and I said, you realize it's on the side of the mountain. He's like, it's perfect. And it turns out he was a director in LA, and he didn't want to deal with the county to get permits to film out there. So this was cheaper and easier for him than doing that. And so I learned early on there's a pig for every barn.
I've been doing some note buying and selling, and we just disposed of a note where it's in West Virginia, and there was a family member who passed away, and they were buried in the front yard of this house.
No way.
Yeah. And my partner and I were like, is that even legal? And it turns out, sure enough, in West Virginia, you can bury someone in the front yard.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like Ozark.
Yeah.
Remember the show Ozark? They're burying the family on the land.
I don't know if there was any drug dealing or any illegality going on, but it sure was kind of a shock. Okay, so there's always surprises. It seems like you're in a more rural location. That's what you're looking for, something that's not in the major city.
Yeah,
but it's a little further out.
Exactly.
And is that because you can get it at the right price, and you're probably going to find a neighbor who wants to add that land to their land? Yeah,
absolutely. It's an inefficient model, right? Because when you get out to rural vacant land, nobody knows what their property's worth. There's just not enough comps. And so it's the best thing about the niche. It's the worst thing about the niche. And so when we're really conservative and we can make an offer, look at the lowest comp, divide by 4, and buy this asset 25, 30 cents a dollar, it becomes a great bargain for the next person that buys it. And because we owner finance it, we make it irresistible. And so it's just this massive market. And we're sort of in this Goldilocks market where if you have too much money, it's a problem. I'm a private equity group. I'm a hedge fund. I have $1 billion. I'm buying productive farmland. If I have too little money, it's also a problem as well. But you can get started doing deals for like $500.
And Mark, it also sounds like you're ensuring your success or hedging your bet, whatever you want to call it, by finding that end buyer before you actually close on the transaction.
I can do that. I don't often do that because in the markets that I'm working, I know there's a buyer. After doing this 6,000 times, I've never been stuck with a piece of raw land. They all sell. So I'm not that concerned about it. But if I'm testing a new market, I might put up some ads to just see what the demand is.
And that's just because, why? There's always a neighbor who's going to be willing to buy it?
There's always somebody at the right price that will buy raw land. There is a lust for land in this country.
What is the price range then that you're usually buying this land for?
I'd say it's going to be between $2,500 and $20,000 is sort of that sweet spot. Now we've done $1 million development deals and did subdividing deals, but for beginners, I would say that the average price is $2,500 to $20,000.
You've been doing this 25 years, so you have a lot of confidence in what you're doing. That's a big chunk of money to put out there to buy some raw land. Do you ever have concerns that will sell when you're spending that kind of money?
No, we've got some property right now that we bought for 20. We're selling for 55 to 70 on easy terms, and they're flying off the shelf.
Do you always sell on the land contract?
I'll take cash, but I don't advertise that way. I don't want cash. I want cash flow. I think it's the antidote to financial insecurity. Cash can be great, but then I got to pay taxes and I have to do it again. And it's just a hustle where if I can create this huge note portfolio, this river of nickels, I can take months off and my cash flow is really not going to get affected.
So is that really your end goal, is to create the cash flow from the notes that you're creating by selling the raw land?
That is the absolute end goal, is can I create enough land notes, enough passive income where it exceeds my fixed expenses?
Right now, how many notes do you have out there that you're receiving cash flow on?
Probably about 1,200 right now.
Wow. Okay. So how do you service those? How do you manage all those notes?
90% of our business is automated with software, inexpensive virtual assistants, and software on the back end. So on the front end, to automate a lot of our processes, we use a system called lgpass.com. And then on the back end, we use a set and forget it payment system called geekpay.io. So it collects via ACH, but if the ACH fails, you'll hit the credit card on file. We can charge fees. It'll collect taxes. It does all the math. It does all the journal entries. It is fantastic.
Did you say set and forget?
Set it and forget it. Yeah. So once you put that note in one time, then you'll pull from your borrower's account each month what they owe you.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat fee management style is worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. If you're thinking of leaving your W-2 job and becoming a full-time real estate investor, one of the greatest costs you must consider is healthcare for you and your family. When I made this transition myself, I found the whole healthcare insurance process to be confusing and frustrating. That's why I'm glad I met Chad Creasy at RCB and Associates. Chad is a professional health insurance agent who helps real estate investors and small business owners understand and choose their best healthcare options. And best of all, his services are covered by the insurance company and won't cost you a dime. If you live in Michigan and are expecting a change in your healthcare insurance coverage for any reason, or losing employer coverage or transitioning into Medicare, then you owe it to yourself to contact Chad Creasy at rcbassociatesllc.com. Save the date for the Midwest Real Estate Investor Conference happening April 24th and 25th of 2025 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This event is the perfect place to connect with fellow real estate investors, gain valuable insights, and elevate your real estate game. With a lineup of expert speakers and numerous networking opportunities, you won't want to miss it. Are you saying you don't have anyone managing that? Like it's an automatic AI?
We have a team, but the Geek Pay the software will manage it. Now, if somebody, let's say, doesn't pay, then the software will send them a notice automatically saying, hey, you have 30 days to cure your default. Then if they don't cure their default, we keep the down payments, we keep the monthly payments. It lowers our cost basis. We resell it. We get a higher ROI.
Do you have to go through the foreclosure process?
No, there's no foreclosure process because we're not using a deed of trust. We're using a land contract. So the land contract states that during the time that you're paying down your promissory note, that ownership will remain in my hands until you pay off your note.
What's their window to cure if they fall behind?
30 days.
So after 30 days, you just say, sorry, it's no longer yours. I'm going to resell it.
Exactly.
Did I also hear you say that if for whatever reason the payment doesn't go through, you can just charge their credit card?
Yeah. So GeekPay, if you take the credit card as a backup and you tell your borrower, hey, look, I can put a credit card as a backup on file in case your ACH bounces. This way you'll never get a late fee from us. And they'll say, sure. And GeekPay will do that.
What's the percentage of buyers and people who engage in these land contracts with you that actually see them through to the end versus those who drop out along the way, or you have to go chasing after them for payments every month?
So in the current economy, we're at a default rate of about 10%. And if the economy goes into recession, that could bump to 12 to 15%. During the Great Recession, 50% of my note portfolio went away, where people were saying, hey, Mark, it's between food and making this land payment. I'm choosing food. But when you do the math and you just rebalance your portfolio, all those cost bases go down and just do it again. So it's really not an issue. I would say that it's, depending on where you are in the cycle, it's always a good time to be in land, because if you're on the cycle part where we're in a recession, then asset prices are lower, everything's on sale, and you're buying up the world. When we're in equilibrium, it's easy to buy, it's easy to sell. And then when the market's super hot, that we've seen for a few years, it all flies off the shelf, but it's a little harder to buy.
Let's go back to kind of the beginning. How are you finding this land?
So I'm going to go to a website like datatree.com /Land Geek. You get a discount. But I'm going to get a list of people that own raw land. And I'm going to get the list. It's public information. And I'm going to scrub that list, say by use code VL for vacant land. Then I'm going to take out all the industrial property, commercial property, residential homes. Now I'm left with vacant land. I'm going to do one more scrub by assessor's parcel number, APN number, by subdivision, because I don't want to send somebody with 40 acres the same offer as somebody with 5 acres, because that 40-acre person is going to send me back glitter in the mail. So then I'll scrub that list by assessor's parcel number or subdivision, price a list, and then send out my offers. LG Pass will automate that. So you just upload the list into that software, and then it'll send out the offers.
So when you look at the system that you have set up and the automations, like how many people are on your team, and how much work do you actually have to put into this each week?
I spend about an hour each week on a team meeting. And so it's about 4 hours a month that I'm in the business. The rest of the time, I'm really just breaking things. So it's like, hey, this is working great, but what if we tried this? Or what if we did this? And so that's really more my role than anything else, because the team is great. We have several virtual assistants. We have an acquisition manager. We have a controller. We have, just a really solid tech stack so that we can automate a lot of this. And everybody's being held accountable as well.
Are you making all the final decisions on what to buy?
We have an algorithm, we have a parameter, and they do it.
So if you went out of the country for a year and no one heard from you, would your business still be cranking along?
Unfortunately, and humbly speaking, the business would crank along. I could die tomorrow, and that business will crank along.
Congratulations for setting up such a great system there.
Thanks. I mean, it only took about 15 years.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of trial and error. If you look out over the next 15 years, I mean, what do you think? Is it more of the same, or
it's just going to get better? Because with artificial intelligence and robots, like, why am I mailing out offers when I can just have robots texting owners and doing that? So everything's sort of evolving with as the technology gets better, the technology gets cheaper, our business really just gets better as well.
How is AI changing things for you?
So AI really helps on the marketing aspect as well. And also, let's say that you're selling for me. I can use a website like otter.ai that will record that call. And then I can start looking at that call and analyzing it and say, oh, okay, you could have done better here. Maybe we could have done this like this, and help people really level up through the AI as well.
And are you analyzing it, or is Otter AI analyzing it, or do you feed the transcript into ChatGPT and
I'll feed it in ChatGPT and I'll say, imagine you're a sales trainer with 20 years experience. Analyze this and basically tell me what feedback would you give the person to improve their call? And then it'll do it. And then I'll ask ChatGPT, make a prompt, basically. So I get very meta with it. So I asked ChatGPT to actually write the prompt.
Now, is AI at a place where you could just have an AI bot call the person and actually talk to them and leverage all the sales techniques?
It's not there, but it's going to get there. It's not there yet. I have a clone, actually. So I have 4 instances of the clone. So there's me for top of the funnel. There's me for everything. There's an internal instance for our team. And then there's a customer service instance. And so we just feed it all this data over 5 million words, and people can interact with the clone.
Who would interface with your clone right now? A buyer, a seller?
Right now, I would say the way that we're doing it's either going to be a customer is going to interact with it for frequently asked questions, or to learn more about the niche and see if it resonates with them. And I would say for customer service, for frequently asked questions. We haven't really started using it for the team, but the team could just ask it, instead of going directly to me, you could just go to the clone, and then they don't have to bother me.
When you have that all set up, you have to come back on the show and share it with us.
It's set up. It's just we're still tweaking it and training it.
But have you unleashed it on the world yet?
I have not unleashed it on the world yet.
When you do, bring it on the show. I mean, I'd love to talk to one of your clones.
It's crazy. When you call the clone, it sounds just like me too. You can have a conversation with it. You can chat with it. They have a video with it as well, but I haven't done the video.
Tell our listeners how they can find out more about you, get a hold of you, and feel free to plug your book or anything else you want to plug.
So I say the best way to learn more is go to thelandgeek.com. And Brian, for your listeners, I gave you a link so they can get the book Dirt Rich. for free. Just pay shipping, and see if this model resonates with them.
That's great. And that link is in the show notes. So if you go to show notes, there's a link to get the free book. And thanks for offering that to our listeners, Mark. Tell our listeners, and I know we've talked about some great tech stuff, AI, but what is your favorite hack or app?
My favorite app is geekpay.io. It's because it makes me money. It's the only software that actually makes me money because I can charge the borrower a monthly note collection fee that covers my software expense. So not only does it save me time, it actually makes me money. So that's like free software.
What's the name of it again?
Geekpay.io.
Geekpay.io. Okay.
Yeah. So I'd say that's probably my favorite app. My favorite hack. Well, I'll tell you, my favorite hack is going to my tech team and saying, where can we eliminate, delegate, or automate? And so they live in Zapier. We have over 1,000 Zaps. So if you're not playing with Zapier or Make.com, start checking that out. It's just incredible what you can build today. I'm very bullish on AI agents, where that future is coming. And because again, this is the worst it's going to be. It's the worst it's going to be. And it's pretty incredible already what we're seeing coming from the big tech giants, including Microsoft and OpenAI, Google's LLM. And you got Grok with X, Claude.ai for writing. It is just incredible.
Mark, thanks for coming back on the show and talking about buying raw land and just the way you do it and the system you have set up. It seems very simple, straightforward, and logical and lucrative at the same time. But I'm also just very impressed with the way you've set up your business and set it up to run without you, with your team and the technology that you're using. So thanks for coming on the show and sharing that with us. And thanks for providing a free copy of your book to our listeners as well.
Brian, thanks so much for hosting and appreciate you. And I'll come back and we'll geek out again.
Yeah, please come back and we'll talk with your clone at the same time. I think that would be a great thing. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian.
I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group, and you can find out more about me by going to higinvestor.com. That's higinvestor.com. And you can also ask questions and join us on Facebook by going to RPOA, Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast. And remember to save the date for the Midwest Real Estate Investor Conference on April 24th and 25th of 2025 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's going to be an event you won't want to miss, packed with invaluable sessions and opportunities to connect with like-minded investors. Keep listening for more updates, and we look forward to seeing you there. This episode was sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.